Hello and welcome to Autistic FM. My name is Haje. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm your host on this journey. You can subscribe to Autistic FM wherever you get your podcasts, and it would be awesome if you did. That's how we grow and thrive. Over on our website at autistic.fm, you'll find episode transcripts, discussion threads for each episode, a neurospicy community forum, and much, much more. In this episode, I'm joined by Martin Slyngstad. He is an author and advocate, Special Olympics athlete, and founder of Spire Autism. Martin shares his experience of being diagnosed with autism at age 5, being nonverbal early in life, and later finding purpose through advocacy, public speaking, and building a life full of meaning and service. We talk about what it means to train first responders on autism safety, how he measures success through impact rather than through accolades, and why it matters to create space for stimming, for rest, and difference at work and school. You'll also hear Martin reflect on everything from Ritalin side effects to floor hockey, from meeting the UAE royalty to receiving standing ovations for his poetry. It's an episode full of heart, honesty, and fierce belief in the power of possibility. A quick note before we dive in. This episode touches on topics like autism, mental health, ableism, medication, neurodivergent advocacy, and much more. As always, listen in a way that feels safe and supportive for you. With that, let's roll the tape. Hello and welcome back to Autistic FM. This week I'm joined by a really fun guest. What's your name, your pronouns, and where in the world are you?
Definitely. So my name is Martin Slyngstad. I'm here in San Jose, California, in the Bay Area, and my pronouns are he, him.
What is your relationship to neurodivergence?
So I was diagnosed with autism at the age of 5, and before that, I was actually nonverbal the first 4.5 years.
All right. And what? I know part of your story and how deep you're in this world now, but how has that affected your life? Being diagnosed, being autistic?
Definitely. Think of it like sometimes it was rocky, like the Rubicon in California, and other times it was as majestic as the Matterhorn in Switzerland. That was honestly a fun place to visit. But the reason why I say that is because after I was first diagnosed, I really didn't know much about autism, and I really didn't accept myself as being different than others until I wrote a book with my mom. And after receiving positive feedback, I started thinking, you know what? Autism is a part of who I am, and I should not be afraid of that. And I should really enjoy the ride.
Amazing. The book you wrote with your mom is called Chatterbox. Would you say a little bit about how that came about and how did you end up writing a book and what was that like?
Definitely. So we came up with the title Chatterbox, My Life with Autism, because I love talking a lot. And originally it was only supposed to be a journal entry during my high school days. And then, of course, when all the craziness happened in 2020, I was like, you know what? I'll just release the book because maybe, somebody really would want to hear from not only my perspective, but my mom's perspective. And I think it's unique with the book where you get both sides of it instead of just one, but also a lot of parents said that they feel hope that their child would be okay after reading it. And that's when I started saying, you know what? I'm going to be accepting my diagnosis as part of my identity and something that I should just grasp and not let it affect me.
I love that. I set myself a goal of reading it before this podcast, and I'm halfway through. It's an extraordinary read, and I think in particular the dual perspective is so powerful, right? A lot of the time you have either autism parents who are like, "Oh, this is so hard for me," and I was like, "Yeah, that is true, but there's another human in this." And I thought the duality of this, the experience and the way that's told with like your real challenges and real triumphs. Um, and I feel like the thing that really came through for me was the resilience and family support that you guys are building up around, like mutually, but also in a wider sense.
Yeah.
And now a lot of what you do is advocacy, which did that come before the book, or was that kind of already, was that an outshot from writing this?
It happened after the book was written, and it took me a little bit. I mean, still to this day, I still struggle with stepping out of my comfort zone, but I do it because I want to show that, autistics have what it takes to do these things. And also to show, like, you like don't let I was gonna save part of this for the end, but I think I'm gonna say it now so I remember. If anybody were to like struggle with doing stuff like I'm doing, I just say, let no one dim your light. You are an amazing individual and you can do whatever you dream of, and just don't let those roadblocks stop you. You have what it takes to push through and do it what you want.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. What shape does your advocacy work take now?
So a lot actually. It just I mean we already know April is Autism Acceptance Month, and the crazy part was I didn't expect to be as well known as I thought. I ended up having 16 speaking engagements in 3 weeks.
That sounds intense.
Yeah. Yeah. Going to schools, training first responders. And now I just secured speaking engagements at UC Davis, Stanford, and the Autism Conference in New Jersey. So that puts me up to almost 21 since April.
What do you speak about?
So what was it? This one with the schools, I talked about supporting your autistic peers because they deserve to be supported. And then I went into a couple rooms at the school and I actually told parents about like advocating for your child, and talked to teachers about ways to teach autistic and students and students with disabilities, because we deserve to be in the classroom, and there needs to be so much change, like lights that can be dimmed, because for some of us we struggle with bright lights and loud noise, and teachers need to follow that because we deserve to be in the classroom and we deserve to have that equal learning opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. What
Yeah.
does advocating for your classmates look like?
So advocating for my classmates would be reaching out to the higher ups at schools and tell them like, hey, you know, I've talked with, I don't say their names, of course, but I talk with them. There's change that needs to happen because most of the time we're the ones that get left out of group projects and stuff and things like that. And so I advocate and say, we deserve a shot to show that we have what it takes to be good peers. We have what it takes to be great with the the group projects, and we could show that we have what it takes to be wonderful students. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but I um I remember this one specific moment when I spoke at UC Berkeley, and one of the students who had autism came up to me and said, I never told my instructors and classmates I was autistic, but you've given me the hope that everything will be okay. And the next day he shared his diagnosis and everybody accepted it with open arms, and he turned out to be a really successful student.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What do you think is encouraging people not to share?
Some things that I would say, and this is kind of how my brain perceived it or perceived the question. some people choose not to share because of the stigma around everything, and I just feel like you shouldn't. I mean, you can if you want, but it's like you shouldn't be afraid to share about yourself, because nobody should be treating you differently with autism or not. And it's like, yeah, the autism rate is rising and everything, but it's like you shouldn't be afraid, and that advocacy, hopefully I'm making sense, because it's sometimes my brain tries to come up with the answer and it may take a little bit longer, but
Yeah, of course, take your time.
it's like they shouldn't be afraid, because reaching out and even sharing your diagnosis goes a long way into getting the support, especially at work. I know there's some places that don't hire, but I've been fighting hard and saying, we deserve to have a chance to work, because we can be great coworkers. And I've even brought up, over here in San Jose, we have this theater district, which would be, I don't know if you've been there, the Center for Performing Arts, the convention center. I recently spoke to all the higher ups there, and sharing my story, they're like, they're going to work on hiring more autistic people, because they know that we have what it takes to be incredible coworkers when given the chance.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally get that. I was diagnosed very late,
Hmm.
only in the last year.
Hmm.
And so I went through most of my career being autistic, but not really knowing, and really struggling at work a lot of the time.
Hmm.
And I, like, part of me wishes that I knew what was, I use square quotes, what was wrong with me, or why
Right.
I wasn't able to fit in,
Hmm.
or why I couldn't make sense of things as easily as other people. And the ability to tell people, like, hey, I am good at what I do, but sometimes I need a little bit more time or space, or sometimes I need to be in a quiet room. And please, for the love of everything that's holy, don't put me in an open plan office.
You know what?
That kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I've advocated to different companies that we should get the time that we need, have a quiet space, almost like a sensory room for us to de-stress as long as we need, so we can get back to what we're doing. And if companies start doing that, you know, we could start seeing more autistics get hired, and more production, or more productivity, because we are hard workers, and we want the chance to show that when given a task, we don't stop. Of course, like, we need that quiet room with like lights that are dimming enough to really help us be re-regulated.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I was going to ask this question, but I feel like in the current political climate, it is
Hmm.
a lot harder to be openly autistic than it was
Hmm.
before.
Hmm.
Have you noticed a difference? What's your take on that?
I'm going to be honest, I really haven't noticed a whole lot, because most of the time I
Okay.
try to get out of the political things. I try to focus on my advocacy and helping others. And boy, wait until I tell you about this one. I would say the biggest impact that I made, but we could tell that later. But it's, other people have told me, but for me, because I have a nonverbal learning disorder, it's hard for me to know. Yeah, I can't. I forgot to
My
bring that
brain
up,
wants
and
to
then I
ask
was
you to
started
say
talking
more
about it.
about nonverbalness, which sounds kind of ironic, but
Yeah, yeah. So
do you
with
still find
nonverbal,
yourself going nonverbal from time to time?
sometimes, depending. Most of the time, no. And with the the reason why I brought up nonverbal learning disorders, because for me, I can't tell if people joke. I can't tell if people get upset. And with tone of voice or body language, it's hard for me to know. And that was actually one of the things I was diagnosed with as I was preparing for my autism diagnosis in the 90s. And I didn't know it was a thing. And I feel like the biggest mistake I would say after getting the diagnosis, people, I don't know, what was it? I was actually one of the test subjects for Ritalin before it came out, and it went really, really bad. So I decided not to take any medication because I didn't want it to affect me to a point where if I were to like get super anxious, I would lash out, but like accidentally. So I like, yeah, it's boy, that was, I think I wrote that in the book. I think it was chapter 1 or 2, if I remember right, when I talked about it.
Time for a quick sidebar. Ritalin is chemically methylphenidate, and it was first cooked up by Swiss chemist Leandro Panizon in 1944. It earned its name for his wife, Marguerite, who is normally known as Rita, and basically he named it after her because it made her less sleepy. 11 years later, in 1955, the FDA gave it the green light, not for ADHD at the time because the term hadn't been coined yet, but for conditions like narcolepsy, depression, and even chronic fatigue. Just a few years later, in 1962, SIBA started marketing it to children to manage behavioral issues. The childhood hyperactivity issue wasn't officially labeled in the DSM until 1968, under a name as long as its chemical formula. It used to be called hyperkinetic reaction of childhood, and the term ADHD didn't appear until 1987. Before 1987, patients were much more likely to be diagnosed with ADD. It was only after those psychiatric definitions locked in that Ritalin became a household name as the go-to ADHD medication. So, how does it work? In the brain, Ritalin blocks the reuptake of dopamine and norepinephrine, increasing their availability in synapses, essentially giving the brain's focus circuits a caffeine-like boost. All in all, Ritalin went from a Swiss lab curiosity to a pediatric staple, changing names and uses as psychiatry's understanding of attention disorders evolved. It's still in use today, but now it has competition from several other medications. Other stimulant drugs include Adderall, which is amphetamine or dextroamphetamine, and Vyvanse, which is lisdexamphetamine. Both are popular amphetamine-based alternatives. Non-stimulant options have also carved out their space. There is Statera, which is kind of a lot like Ritalin actually. It's a reuptake inhibitor as well, which is helpful but much slower to act. There's also Intoniv and Capve that are alpha-2 antagonists. They were originally for high blood pressure, but they're now used to smooth out ADHD symptoms. And there's also Qelbree, which is a newer non-stimulant medication approved in 2021. Doctors may also prescribe off-label options like Wellbutrin or even modafinil for adults. They all have their own pros and cons and pace of action. So while Ritalin continues to hold its place in the landscape, today's ADHD treatments offer a pretty wide menu, and it invites doctors and patients to match the right drugs to each individual's needs. The most important thing I wanted to mention is that if somebody puts you on a drug that doesn't quite work for you, know that there are other options available. Everybody's brain is per definition neurodivergent, and so our brain reacts differently to different drugs. So if one doesn't work, get your doctor to help you try a different one. All right, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah. Could you say more about that? I feel like Ritalin was invented in the 40s, right? What was the thing you were an experiment for?
It was, they said that it was for Ritalin, that it wasn't, it never, it was, or it must have been some form of it, because what my parents were told was that it was still kind of like not available yet. So they wanted like to do some testing on people like me, and it did not work out. I don't remember if I think it was like a part of Ritalin, but Yeah, I don't remember a whole lot of that, to be honest.
Interesting. In what way did it not work out? Did it not work for you, or did it make you worse, or did it, like, what happened?
Made me very anxious
Mm,
and really agitated easier, and I did not like that, and I really didn't want to really experience that.
yeah, no, I totally get that. I
Yeah,
feel like a lot of the time medicines have strange effects
yeah,
on autistic folks. Not necessarily because the medicine is or isn't working, but because the way we perceive things could be pretty different, right? So we might notice side effects or notice effects of side effects in ways that other people don't, and
yep,
it can be a bit of a crapshoot.
yeah, definitely.
That's fascinating. I also read that you are an Olympian. How did that
Yep.
come about?
Special Olympics athlete. Yeah, I had to get approval from my doc first, of course, because of my scoliosis. I actually have some of the medals right here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 that I won in only 2 events. And because I love sports so much, it's great. Whoop, I can't believe I just dropped the medal. It's great because not only am I able to be stay fit, but I'm able to meet others, not only that are like me, but be able to communicate and build lasting friendships that I wasn't able to in school.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so, what sports did you compete in?
Last year was track and field and flag football, and now this year because my back was pretty messed up early this year, I took a break from track and field to focus on my studies, and then I start softball in 2 weeks, and then flag football and floor hockey will be the other two for this year.
That's wild. I'm super happy for you that you get to do all this fun stuff. That's amazing. You
Yeah.
mentioned study. I believe I read somewhere you're studying to be a language pathologist. Is that right?
Yep. And the
What
reason
drew you to
for
that?
it, since I was nonverbal, I want to give back what I received as a child and help others like me.
Yeah, that's amazing. It sounds like you're living an adventurous and full and hectic life.
Yeah.
Um, Whenever I get that kind of busy, I usually fall apart. How do you
Mhm.
look after yourself?
I'm working on that. I'm working on that. I'm still trying to figure out how to do that because I work a job and then I also run a business, and my business Spire Autism was mostly the public speaking training first responders and instructors for now, but I do things differently. And I really, the most recent one that I had with search and rescue, that one took a toll on me. It kind of made me feel like, I need a break because I trained first responders about like how to search for autistics, and most of the time they are found kind of when they're missing like rivers and creeks and lakes. And what makes me when I do training that stand out the most is I actually pretend I go missing and I have them search for me. But the problem with that was I put myself in a situation where I actually had multiple panic attacks and broke down every time because the I didn't really want to force it, but I did because I wanted search and rescue to know, like, hey, this is how we are going to be during a situation like this. Was it worth it? It was great, but it definitely took a toll on me. So I'm still trying to like recover. And that was like 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, no, that sounds intense.
Yeah.
I was actually a first responder for about 4 years. I was
Hmm.
a policeman. And do you want to take a wild guess at how much training I got about autism?
0. Yep. I
Absolutely
thought
zero.
so. Yep.
Like we had a little bit of training about people in like severe mental distress, but that
Yeah.
is a very significantly different thing. Like facing
Yeah.
off somebody who was in a very large amount of PCP is
Yeah.
very different from somebody who's having a meltdown.
Yeah.
And here in the US, I definitely have this sense of like I don't feel safe to have a meltdown in public
Yeah.
because if somebody calls the cops, I don't I don't know if I can explain myself or if I can pull
Right.
myself
They
together.
wouldn't. Right.
And it would really suck to get shot,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Um, what's the advice you do give to first responders around that?
What I tell them is, when you see someone distressed, don't just assume, because I show an example. I even like with the masking video that I did, I have a YouTube channel where I have all my speeches and stuff and masking, but I tell them, if they're not able to communicate, like have something with them like a PEX card or something so they can point to how they're feeling, because for some that have really bad meltdowns, their brain might be too overwhelmed to communicate.
Mhm.
And having something like sunglasses or headphones to try to help suppress the noise, because for some they're like too sensitive to lights on the police cars or like the sirens and everything, and that could really make it worse.
Yeah, for sure. Although I also feel like a police officer, the first thing they would do is take their headphones off and their sunglasses off.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like there's it's almost like we take 2 steps forward, yet take 10 steps back, it seems like.
Mhm.
And I've been doing everything that I can to show like, hey, these are the ways to approach us and to help de-escalate a situation, but it's like I might have to give a demonstration to show them like, hey, we need to like really or like tell them like the ways to approach someone in distress, and then kind of putting myself in that situation so they know how to. And I know it's would be risky on my end, because I know putting myself in a panic attack could make it very draining, but I try to step out of my comfort zone to really, really show like, hey, this is the true things of what we deal with. And yeah, it's hard to explain, but I tried to show them first via slides and stuff, and then yeah, it was talk about a wild night. That was that took a lot out of me. And even I had a family member that was with me, and when they recorded it, they had to stop early because they were like, dude, do I need to like save you? Because they didn't know that I was actually going to be putting myself in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that's incredibly hard. And
Yeah.
the experiential way that people learn, that could
Mhm.
actually be really powerful.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Obviously, autism is a spectrum, right? And so
Mhm.
the way you react to something might be different than the way I react to something. And we're both white dudes, right? So there's this
Mhm.
whole extra layer of cultural and whatnot that comes with being anything other than a white dude.
Mhm.
Um, how do you tackle that when you're helping train people?
Wow, that's a good question. Wow. My brain is wow. I'm trying my brain is trying to answer it, but my brain is like, I don't know how to answer it, but the answer is there, but my brain is like having difficulty. Wow. I'm gonna come back to that. So I
Sure.
like
Yeah.
it's because my brain is like trying so hard to answer, but it's like, but my body's like, nope, nope, gonna make it
Not there
difficult.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. When I talk about autism, I usually remind people that I am but one person, and
Hmm.
that my like neurodivergence and my spectruminess is like a really finely calibrated set of sliders that is exactly true for me, and it's not true for Martin. It's not true for all my other friends. It's not true for anybody else on the podcast.
Right.
Um, and it's been really fascinating to, like, even just you and me, we are very
Hmm.
different.
Yeah.
And then from there, me and every other person I've had on the podcast is we're all snowflakes, all different,
Yeah.
unique people.
Yeah.
And where it gets complicated, I think, is where intersectionality comes into it too, right?
Hmm.
So being autistic is one thing, but then being a person of color or queer or politically different or having other learning comorbidities come along with autism, it
Hmm.
becomes really complex really fast. And the lens through which I was looking at this was as an ex-cop. I was like, when you walk into a situation and somebody is screaming and throwing things, like I'm scared. Like I'm scared
Right.
for my own safety and all that kind of stuff. And now that I have a much deeper understanding, I think there's probably one or two people I came across over the years who
Hmm.
were in some sort of meltdown type situations.
Hmm.
And in one of those situations, I think I mishandled it really badly.
Hmm.
And in another one, I think I was able to show up with kindness and with like, hey, let me try and use tactical communications, as they call it, just try and
Right.
talk somebody down.
Yeah.
Um, and that becomes really challenging
Yeah.
when it's like a chaotic situation and people fear for their safety.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm super glad that somebody's out there trying to help teach, right? And to remind people that, hey, not everything is as it seems.
Right.
Um, Like at one point, I pulled somebody over who had like slurred speech, and I was like, "Oh, obviously they're drunk, right?" And
Right.
10 seconds later, I was like, "Oh no, they're having a stroke. I need an ambulance right now." Right?
Right.
But that took like me recognizing that, wait a minute, the thing that's happening here isn't what somebody who's very drunk usually does. This is
Right.
something else. And then from there, I was like, okay, what do I know about slurred speech? I'm not an ambulance person, right? I don't know anything
Right.
about this. But I was like, wait, there's a few medical cases where this happens. And so
Hmm.
I called it in. The ambulance arrived. The guy was fine. But I was like, these kinds of misunderstandings happen
Quite
scarily
frequently.
often, especially if there's no education about it. And so I think
Yep.
this is where what you're doing with Spire Autism and with all the other advocacy work you're doing, that's where that comes in.
Definitely. And so far it's paid off. These little guys right here, these are
Hmm.
actually proclamations after working with the city mayors to proclaim April as Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month. This one was this year in the city of Manteca. This one was my first ever in San Jose 2 years ago. And the one at the far end was over in Hawaii. And I got that when I actually this April started a conference called the US Autism Show that debuted
Hmm.
in Hawaii. And it's pretty, it's great to be able to work with government officials to help bring more clarity and more acceptance to the community. And last year, all that work paid off after being awarded Disability Advocate of the Year.
Amazing! Congratulations.
Uh,
What does the autism show do? What is it for? Who is it for? Who should
yeah.
attend?
Yeah. First, I'll tell you this. I now know that when I run the conference again, it should be multiple days and not just one day. Yeah. We have different autism advocates. Like we had one fly in from Florida. We had another that was speaking in Utah, and then another in Texas. And the way that we did it is, there's all these different advocates with so many different backgrounds, and we kind of set it to where each one shared, like, if they had a specialty in a certain topic, they would talk about that. And we had autism companies show up. We had teachers show up from the University of Hawaii. We had, I think it was Honolulu's mayor's assistant that showed up too. But yeah, like I said, I now know not to have because we had 8 speakers, it should have been a 2-day thing instead of just 1 day, because it was long and the internet went out a couple times, and there were some roadblocks along the way, but we were able to get through it.
Yeah. Yeah, that does sound intense.
Yeah.
What does success look like for you? Like, how do you measure whether or not you know what you're trying to do is working?
Success to me is measured by parents reaching out to me and saying, because of you, I have hope that my child would be okay. I've had old clients, parents that I ran into saying, my child's been able to make more friends at school after you went to the school to talk to the peers and stuff like that. And then I'd say the biggest is even, what would it be? Boy, my brain just decided to stop working again. I would say those things, and also teachers coming to me and saying, you really helped me understand how to teach students with disabilities better. And so I would say that's how I measure success.
I love that.
Over even at the
Is,
conferences.
so you're working as a speech pathologist now. Your background is also as a behavior specialist, is that right?
Yeah, I try not to talk about that a whole lot. And I tell you what, because I know it's like really controversial with the autism community. So that's why that's why I'm waiting for Spire to grow so I could kind of leave that field. I don't know your thoughts on an autistic person doing something like this, but how do I say this? The way that I work is, I think, outside of the box. And so I'll give just a quick example. I had a client who loved Dora the Explorer. And so what I did is I pretended our sessions were like an episode of Dora the Explorer. So they're like a map that I build or create with like the different things to work on. And after each one, I would be like Swiper the Fox, trying to make distractions and like remind the kid to say, hey, Swiper, no distracting. And not only did they love it, the parents said that they have hope that their child will be okay in the future because of how I was able to help them with things, and they really appreciated it. But like I said, I don't like talking about it sometimes, only because it's like behavior specialist is kind of like a controversial topic in the autism community. So I kind of like try to keep that on the down low, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. So now I'm curious, and now I want to double click, but you also said you didn't want to talk about it. So now I'm a little torn. Let me ask the question, and if you don't want to answer it, please just say that. It will make this go away.
Definitely.
I understand the controversy, I think. And I think that ABA done carefully and for the right reasons can be an incredibly powerful tool.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I definitely believe that, but it's with most people in the ABA field, most of the time they're more controlling, and it's like ABA wouldn't be so controversial if it was more play-based and less robotic, like doing the same thing over and over again. If it was more play-based, I feel like ABA would have a better rap sheet.
Totally. And I think there's something interesting there, right? There's so many different ways of doing therapy. There's so many different ways of being a parent. There's so many different ways of being a police officer and being an Olympian and being a whatever.
Mhm.
And I think there is no, like, not all cops are bad. Not
Mhm.
all ABA is bad. Not all firefighters are wonderful people, right?
Mhm.
And so I think there's something to this where, as a community, I observe that we lose a little bit of nuance. I've had a couple of ABA folks on the podcast in the past, and the comments have always been a little prickly, but I'm also being like, well, clearly you didn't listen to the episode. Because go away from the episode was like, this person is trying to work within a accepted system to help people harm themselves less.
Yeah.
Right. And I think if that's the goal, then I'm like, yeah, I'm all for it. That makes sense to me. And I also get that there's a long history of challenging behavior and challenging ways of trying to help people. And like the thing I keep coming back to is like, who are you trying to help? Are you trying to help the kid, or are you trying to help the parents by making the kid less annoying? Like if it's
Right.
the latter, then I'm like, that's not necessarily, in my opinion, the right thing to optimize for.
Exactly. And so I get that, and I think when you brought up like the parents wanting the kids to be less known, it reminds me of like the more self-injurious behavior aspect of stimming. Because I know
Yeah.
that can help it, but at the same time it harms them without knowing it. And yeah, no, I actually did a video on that. I'll send you my YouTube video later on that. Talk
Please,
about
yeah.
different ways to avoid this self-injurious stimming.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's an interesting thing, right? Even just looking at that little piece, you're like, stimming is a behavior that you do because something is overwhelming or something, like there's a feeling that needs to come out somehow and help you get that out.
Yeah.
And if one stim works, but does physical injury to you, and a
Mhm.
different stim also works, but is less harmful,
Mhm.
then helping someone guide them towards one over the other, that seems like a kindness, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, we don't have to double click on this. I just thought it was
Yeah,
an
no,
interesting
you're
thing to
good.
note because, yeah, there's a piece there. What are you? What is next for you? I know you're in school. I know
Mhm.
you're mentioning going back to softball.
Mhm.
What are you excited about right now?
My biggest excitement, and with all this advocacy, I've actually felt comfortable doing solo travels to these conferences, and I was invited back to speak at the United Arab Emirates. And when I went there, I don't think I sent you the photo, but I actually met Her Excellency in Dubai, and they invited me back out to speak. It's a little crazy right now, so I might have to hold off until things get a little better out there, but next on my chapters to continue to do these speaking engagements and really share the word like, hey, we deserve to be just like everyone else. We deserve to have friends. We deserve to go out. We deserve to be employees because we can show that we are hard workers and don't give up. I mean, yeah, we would need breaks here and there to help us calm down, but we can show that we have what it takes. And that brought me kind of to where was it? Ah, here it is. Is it cool if I bring up kind of like my little words of
Yeah, please.
encouragement? All right, so this first one, I don't have a title for it, but being autistic is a unique gift that allows us to see the world in a different light, to think outside the box, and to bring a fresh perspective to the table. We are not broken or needed fixing. We are beautifully different, wonderfully complex, and incredibly capable individuals. I want to remind each and every one of you listening to this that you are powerful beyond measure. You have the strength, the intelligence, and the resilience to overcome any obstacle that may come your way. Embrace your difference, celebrate your strengths, and never let anyone dim your light. Together, we can break down barriers, challenge stereotypes, and pave the way for a more inclusive and accepting society. We have the power to change the world one step at a time. So let's stand tall, speak our truth, and show the world what it means to truly be autistic. Powerful, unstoppable, and incredible. Let us continue to empower each other, uplift one another, and create a future where every individual, regardless of their neurodivergency, is valued and respected. Together, we are a force to be reckoned with, so let's show the world what we're made of. And this last one I have, really quick backstory. It was actually a homework assignment. This poem that I wrote was a homework assignment, but after receiving incredible feedback and a standing ovation from my classmates, I decided to share it. And the poem is called I Am. And then, so here we go. I am a warrior for change, unique in every way, battling quiet struggles and loud wars every day. My body, marked by stress, tells a story, a testament of strength in all I say and do. I wonder how many trials must test my weary soul in a world that judges scars as if they were a toll. Yet I hear soft whispers of hope for every child and eyes lifted upward where dreams run wild. I see the weight of prejudice on every tender face, parents fighting silent battles in a world that won't erase the doubts and hurt that linger when judgment comes too fast. Still together we rise, united, unsurpassed. I want to guide the lost so no one fights alone. Our differences unite us in the strength we've known. I am a warrior for change. My disability is not a flaw, but a symbol of resilience, defiant in what I saw. I pretend to wear the armor, though sometimes I feel the strain. Exhaustion weighs me down, yet hope runs through my veins. I touch hearts with gentle grace, a beacon in the light. I worry for a world still blind to our inherent right. I cry silent tears in the dark so no one sees me cry. Each droplet tells a story of strength we all contain. God will help us get through it. Just reach out and pray. I am a light that will not be confined. I say, let no one dim your light. Let yourself shine. I dream of days when labels fade and every soul is embraced, when disability is honored as a beauty interlaced. I try to hold on to hope, though sometimes my strength feels weak. I trust that you'll see the powers and the battles that we seek. I am a warrior for change through struggles soft or loud, forever proud of my mark that makes us different, bold, and unbound.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you. And then other than that, I mean, that's first, I really wanted to share that because I really hope that it inspires people to keep on fighting and not give up, because I know with the uncertainty in today's society, it's like we got to keep on fighting and keep on standing up for each other. And now more than ever, we need to stand tall.
Yeah. How does it make you feel reading that up?
It makes me feel like I'm doing all that I can to, it's almost like a call to action in a way, but also it's kind of like, it's almost like being the leader to help those to fight and keep going. And I don't know if that made sense, but I also, I don't know why I forgot to even mention this. I'm also, one thing that I'm doing, I actually wrote a song about fighting anxiety in hopes that it helps others be comfortable, like that deal with anxiety, to keep on fighting through it. So I do a lot. I do a lot.
No kidding.
Yeah. So to be, like, in my eyes, I am, I feel like I'm a leader that keeps on going, even though my exhaustion is pretty high, but I still keep on going because I really want to help as many as I can. And I face so many roadblocks, and it's like there's all these invisible scars from everything that's happened in the past, but yet I still get up and keep on fighting and kind of be like that beacon for others to keep on going, because I know there's going to be a day where we wake up and we won't have to ask ourselves, is everything going to go wrong? Am I going to get bullied today? But we'll wake up and we'll be accepted for who we are, and people won't judge us. But we still got to get through the major hurdle of people understanding autism more. And what better way than by going out to these different conferences, going onto these podcasts, and recording these messages of hope, because the hope is there. It just takes someone like me to kind of give them that little nudge to keep on fighting and not give up, because everyone matters in this world, whether or not they see it. And they all have a support system, even if they don't see it. There's still that support system from people like me that continues to have sleepless nights to really help bring more acceptance for my people.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I've got two questions in these interviews with. The first one,
absolutely.
what do you wish autistic people knew about neurodivergent folks?
That we are wonderful human beings that deserve a chance to do what they want without judgment.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And the final one is, could you tell me of a time that you were seen and loved in exactly the right way for you?
Hmm. Well, I have to go back. Wow. I'm not sure, to be honest, because I know there's so many, but it's like, I don't know if this would count.
But if you think it counts, it counts.
Oh, okay.
The wrong answer, you know?
I know it's, oh, gotcha. Okay. I guess there was one time when I did speak in Dubai and sharing my story. I was sharing my story, and there was this there was an autistic person there. And the only way that he shares what he says is by singing only. He's only able to speak while singing. And after sharing my poems and quotes with the mothers and the people there, he rose his hand. He was trying to talk regularly, but he couldn't. And the mother said, no, you don't have to say it. It's totally fine if you don't want to. Took a breath And then out of nowhere, he starts singing his way of talking, and he sings about how he wants parents to be there for their autistic child and fight for them when they need it the most. I wish I had that video. My jaw completely dropped, but he was also singing how, what was it? Oh, he is grateful that I was doing something like this because, a lot of parents are really exhausted with the lack of support and everything. And so that really made it special to hear him actually sing. And yeah, it was,
And that made you feel loved.
yeah, like I was not expecting that. I mean, I know you got like the love from families, but it's like this one, something about this one from the autistic individual kind of like I'll have to send you a photo because I took a photo with him afterwards, and it was just a wonderful experience or
It
a
sounds like it really
wonderful,
touched you.
yeah. Oh, a lot of it, everyone actually that was there were touched by it. I was like, okay, why? Who knew that what I would speak about would actually have him do that? So that was the best thing, I would say.
So, Martin, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I was honestly, this was a fun conversation. I really, really enjoyed it. And as a reminder for everyone tuning in and listening, you know, when roadblocks face your way, just fight through and keep on pushing and know that you have what it takes to do what you dream of. So thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Autistic FM. If this episode gave you something to think about or just made you feel a little bit more seen, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that for as little as $5 a month. Your support helps keep Autistic FM running and allows us to continue having these kinds of honest, nuanced conversations. You can find out more on autistic.fm. A big thank you again to Martin Slyngstad for sharing his story, his voice, and his perspective so openly. If you'd like to explore more of his work, you can start by checking out his book, Chatterbox: My Life with Autism. We've linked to it in the show notes. This podcast is produced and hosted by me, Haje Kamps, with production, editing, and research support from Crystal Cedeno. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Cheers.